Please briefly summarize your industry education, professional background, and current role at Digi.
My education is in electrical engineering, specialized in wireless communications back at Georgia Tech and then George Washington. At Digi, I run the public sector segment of Digi's IoT business unit.
How does Digi fit within the infrastructure industry?
Digi's been in the infrastructure space for, well, I guess almost 2 decades. One of our first cellular router products was used to monitor a substation in the electrical grid many years ago, and that's how we got started in this sort of cellular wireless space. Soon after that, we were involved in wastewater lift stations, which you can imagine is a critical part of a sewer system. So that was a key area for Digi as well. And we've since expanded quite broadly into other markets. I think most notably in transportation. And we have a few segments in transportation. The one that comes to mind, I think, is really in rail, right? Where rail transportation, especially passenger rail, almost every rail car and locomotive in the Northeast corridor has a Digi router, and it's used for positive train control, which is a relatively new system, right, to keep trains from, from accidents, right? And it's a key part, and it's really mission critical. So that's kind of made a name for the company in mission critical transportation. We also are on many buses where, on board a bus now is actually a moving data center. There's fare collection, internet access for riders and passenger counting. All these systems are connected on a bus through a Digi router. And I think quite notable was a recent project in New York City where Digi routers were deployed in every signalized intersection across 5 boroughs. Was a major undertaking for us and our partner AT&T throughout the city.
Since we're talking about public transportation, can you tell me a little bit more about some recent projects you did with both Chicago and New York? I believe the one you just mentioned. What are they and what did you do there, and how do they relate to infrastructure and planning?
I think the Chicago Transit pilot was quite notable in that it's somewhat pandemic related, as how do you best manage your transit system where you need to make sure that passengers and riders are safe, right? And yet you want to move them quickly right through the city to their destinations. That's, of course, the purpose of transit. So that pilot was designed to test new technologies and systems in making sure that bus ridership is optimized, right? That they can count very accurately the passengers on a bus, right? And with that information, then provide that to riders intending to join the passenger bus, right? So they can determine right ahead of time if the bus is of low occupancy or high occupancy, make a decision about how they want to transport themselves that day. And also it really improves the efficiencies of the transit agency, who, you can imagine if you're at a bus stop and a bus is approaching, yet unknowns to you that the bus is actually highly occupied. So the bus driver cannot open the doors to let you on, so it passes you by. So very frustrating experience. So with that, this added, intelligence and accuracy of passenger information, the bus transit agency can put another bus on that route, right, and make sure that these situations don't occur. So that was pretty much the pilot in Chicago. The other big project recently notable is, of course, one I mentioned, is New York City DOT. It's deemed critical infrastructure, right? The city traffic system, due to all the critical operations within the city, more international bodies, as well as just the functioning of New York. And so what they did there is put in Digi routers at every intersection to make the traffic management system run effectively, right? And congestion is a time killer. Anything that can be done to reduce that, right, especially for a large city like New York, is worth the money. And that's the new upgrade there has provided that capability within the city. And also, most notably, the performance there is quite incredible. One would not have believed that you could achieve 4 nines of availability running on cellular networks. But that's what they're doing now in New York City. It's quite remarkable.
So how is technology in general shaping public transport and the future of smart cities?
I see three main areas there. As we've all been hearing about 5G, right? It's not just faster cellular, but it's also a much more capable network, right? So with 5G, you do get faster cellular, of course, but you also get some capabilities that are still in the works, right? One is side link, where cell phones can talk to cell phones, right? Well, why is that important? Not really, I suppose, for cell phones so much, but where cars can talk to infrastructure, right? At an intersection, right? So you can best manage connected vehicle and autonomous vehicle systems. That's all coming with 5G. And also some very accurate positioning. We all use GPS today, and GPS has done wonderful, and it'll continue to be a part of every one of these IoT solutions. But to get centimeter type accuracy, GPS is not really capable of that inside cities where you have urban canyons and such. So what cellular does is provide a triangulation-based triangular-based location assessment, and it can get down to the tens of centimeters, so you can know which perhaps lane a car is in at an intersection and accurately run that intersection system. So that's really where cellular has played a part, but also cloud. You know, I think going back not so long ago, cloud was an interesting idea, and some people were putting their email systems into cloud, but now almost everything is going into cloud. It's become a platform for a lot of IT systems, and now, you know, just interestingly, I was in a conversation just yesterday at APTA Expo in Orlando, where people are putting their systems into the cloud for security, because city managers do not want all these applications running on their computer systems in their data center. They want them out, right? So they're putting things in the cloud that you wouldn't normally see in the cloud, and now it's just a fast change that is occurring across the world. And I think the third is really what's changing a lot of this technology and these systems is image recognition, right? And in that, right, there's a good bit of AI that's being used to determine what shapes are, what their images represent, and it's used quite a bit now in traffic management for detecting pedestrians, right? It's a very interesting way. It provides a safety to residents and visitors. So it's becoming quite and of course too for autonomous vehicle, right? Image recognition is key. Those are the main three that I see for transportation.
So what should our engineering audience be thinking about in their work in terms of transit, technology, and smart cities? What do they need to know?
I think we're at a real inflection point here. If you look at the technologies that are now coming into fruition, right, with 5G, with AI, with image recognition, and all that, and then when you add that to that, what's happening with IoT, right, where in IoT cities can become much more efficient and have much better services for residents, for visitors, and companies can gain great efficiencies and productivity, right, all through IoT. So that is just an increasing phenomenon I see. And you add to that what the infrastructure bill is providing, where a lot of these systems are being promoted, right, by our federal government, right? You have transportation, utilities, right, the grid, public transportation safety. There's a lot of emphasis there on those infrastructure projects. So that will spur more innovation, more development, and also, you know, there's a climate vein to that too, right? With climate change, I think though you know, it's somewhat political, unfortunately, but there will definitely be an emphasis in those things, and that's a whole new area where technology will grow and mature, I think, and bring about new business and opportunity for many people, especially Americans now with that infrastructure money.
So following up on that, the previous topic, how do you feel about the new infrastructure bill and how much of an impact it's going to have on the industry?
I'm excited about it. I see it as a very important step forward, and appreciate what Congress has done in that. Transit especially is going through a transformation. People unfortunately are more often in their cars these days than they were a few years ago, and cars are not the answer, right? We've got to get out of the cars. Cars are a huge contributor to greenhouse gases, and so people need to get back into transit. And transit, though, it has to go through a transformation, perhaps an evolution, and the infrastructure bill is going to help that, I think, tremendously as it evolves, I think, into more of more ubiquitous, right? It's not about commuters now. It's really about moving a lot of people and visitors around through cities and bringing about, you know, that sort of cultural and improvement right to the residents for a good city experience. So I just think it's going to be a great thing. And it's not just a one hit, cash influx for these projects. It's a 5-year plan, right? If you've taken a look at that infrastructure bill. So it's going to be a nice steady growth, I think, and some funding that agencies can count on. And of course, their suppliers.